Okay, so it looks like I'm live. Okay. So I've been lazy as heck. I haven't done a video in like 8 days. So I was like, you know what? Let's do it live. So a programming note and a, I guess, channel note. In light of YouTube's draconian, anti-free speech sort of way it's going down, because they want qualitative and authoritative content, if you will, I decided not only a while ago to also post a video on BitChute just for an exclusive. I also decided to go with library. Looks like LBRY, but it's pronounced library. As you can see here, I'm not quite sure what it's like. I'm fairly happy with BitChute, and I will be, I guess, donating to them again. So, but this looks like an okay platform. I got this from Sticks Hex and Hammer. He said he was going to do it too, and he brought up some interesting points, such as branching out, not just sticking to YouTube like I'm just a YouTuber. And he's right. You can't just be a YouTuber anymore, because they're gonna take you down. They're gonna take me down eventually, because there's gonna be some video that they're not gonna like. I don't, I wouldn't say I bully anyone per se, but I go after politicians who need to be gone after, such as Mitt Romney, Federica Wilson, AOC, the Squad, etc., etc., etc. But having said that, I decided I'm going to go. So apparently I'm in the queue to upload all my videos. Now I haven't uploaded all my videos to BitChute. I kind of wanted to start from scratch, if you will, and just do that. So what I wanted to do. Oh, also here's my BitChute page. I do get more. I don't have as many subscribers. Well, that's kind of saying a lot. I got 1/4 of the subscribers I do here on BitChute than I do YouTube, which is only 93. I'm rounding up. So there is that. But what I wanted to do today, talk about, is Virginia. I used to live in Virginia. I've been to Virginia many times. I do own property there. I essentially, let's pause it for a second. I don't necessarily want to own property there anymore in light of the recent statewide elections. This is why we have an electoral college process in the United States, where 1 or 2 or 3 states or cities don't control the rest of the whole outcome of the United States for presidential elections. I think I'm leaning towards believing that states should have a statewide electoral process, because Northern Virginia, the counties that border DC, the counties that are in Richmond, or I think it's Henrico County maybe, but there's a lot of counties that have to bend the knee to big counties, big population centers near Washington, D.C. Why is that? Because that's where all the money's at. Obviously, that's where you want to live. Having said that, I saw this video. This is from Mr. Guns and Gear B channel. Never heard of this guy. He just popped up on my on the feed one day, and I was like, okay. So I started. There's a few of these. I want you to listen to this. This guy's a undercover cop, looks like, or a plainclothes cop or police officer. I want to go over this video. I'm going to play it. I'm going to stop it a few times. This guy is very eloquent when he speaks. He's very passionate, and he's noticing a certain trend in Virginia. So let's go ahead, play it, and then we'll talk about it as we go.
Board. My name is Ben Joseph Woods. I came here to Fairfax County originally from southwestern Virginia. I was a graduate of Southern Virginia University. Since duty, served in the Marine Corps
I had
on
to pass
active
that
duty,
up.
and I'm now a major in the Marine Corps Reserves. I'm also a federal law enforcement officer stationed here. With all of that said, I would like to caveat anything that I'm saying is not an official statement.
We know why he has to say that, right? Because if he says it, he goes, what, your whole department thinks the way you do? He's like, no. I'm using the First Amendment in my personal capacity to give a public comment to these knuckleheads here who are obviously, most of them are filthy freaking liberals. Totalitarian communist, if you will, if you want to go that crazy.
I want to address to the board a little bit of a darker topic here that most people have been unwilling to talk about.
That's the thing. What he's about to talk about is a lot of things that people won't talk about. They just say, oh, we'll just push this legislation and the people just have to follow. Okay, before we continue talking about this, let's understand something real quick here. When states like California push sanctuary city laws, they say, well, we're just not going to, follow federal law and detain people who break immigration laws. We'll just ignore it. We're just not going to enforce those laws. Okay, well, guess what? What he's going to talk about here shortly, or I think not really, but yeah, I think he's going to discuss this about Second Amendment sanctuary cities, or counties, if you will. Now, the governor of Virginia, Blackface Northam, he did mention something about, no, he didn't mention it was the Secretary of State, the other douchebag. He said something like, well, we have the option of sending the National Guard in. Oh, really? You want to send the National Guard in? That's a good idea. Yeah. That's you want to start a civil war or something that happened in Athens, Tennessee in 1946? That's a good way to start it. Oh, by the way, there's a couple of good books. I should about Athens, Tennessee in 1946 during the county and town elections. I'm not going to go into it, but make sure you vet your sources where you read this or you look on YouTube, because there's a lot of crazy crap that people like to project, if you will, instead of just the raw original story.
Virginia is at a boiling point. It's not just gun laws, and it's not climate change, and it's not any one particular thing, but it is true that we are very, very polarized.
Okay. The nation's polarized. Whose fault? Everybody's fault. It's not just one party, one political party, or one gender, or one specific ethnic group. Everybody in the United States is at fault for us being so polarized. Even me. I'm a little bit polarized when it comes to, government violating my constitutional rights. I don't necessarily like that. And slowly over the past few years, I've gotten more and more libertarian, to the point where I'm starting to look at anarchy and going, I know it's not going to work, but god dang, man, it's like, you kind of look at it and you're like, I know it's not going to work, but should we try it? No, we shouldn't. But as far as more and more I get libertarian, and the more and more people on the left get more left and more socialist and more authoritarian, I don't like to listen to them anymore. Why? Because I know that they want to violate my rights. And at the worst, want to kill me and my family. Because I don't agree with them. At the least, they want to indoctrinate me in some sort of like Franklin Roosevelt internment camp for the Japanese Americans during 1942, if you will, in the days, in the shadow of Pearl Harbor, December 7, 1941. So I know where this guy's coming from. I feel the same way. You see all the polarization going on. Then what? You see, a lot of people are really fast and real cute about saying, well, I got a bunch of guns, I'll just, blah, blah, blah. Really? Then what? Who's your target? Other people? How do you know they're... You see, a lot of times people get caught up in, essentially people get caught up in like mob mentality, if you will. There's a lot of studies, a lot of psychological studies on mob mentality. A lot of people who wouldn't join a mob all of a sudden join a mob, and they're out there punching and kicking and slapping and burning and destroying stuff, all because of a mob mentality. We don't want to do that. What this guy's about to say is very poignant. Now, unfortunately, he's only given like 5 minutes to talk in front of this panel, whatever it is, and they don't really listen to him. Like, oh, your time's almost up there, kid. Let's get out of here. I don't want to have to listen to you anymore. That's how they're like.
Right now as a society. I think we can all agree on that, correct? The problem is that as we are polarized, we have two groups of people who fundamentally believe the same things about justice and about rights. And yet, both of those groups, they tend to conveniently forget their fundamental beliefs about people's rights when it suits them. And that happens on both sides.
Let's play that again. I want to play that thing again, what you just said. This is indicative to every political party, regardless of left, right, middle, up, down, sideways. So let me back it up just a little bit. Right there.
They tend to conveniently forget their fundamental beliefs about people's rights when it suits them. And that happens on both sides.
Yes. Kind of what I was alluding to. We sort of ignore. I think there's a Second Amendment, or actually not the Second Amendment, those First Amendment auditors out there who you could say they annoy cops or they bother cops. But a lot of the times what they're doing is sort of, if you don't exercise your rights, then if they disappear, then were they your rights in the first place? I don't know. If a tree falls in the forest, it doesn't make a sound, and you're not here to hear it. The point is, if you don't exercise your rights, like for instance, the Fourth Amendment is pretty much gone. I was listening to Glenn Beck today, and he said something like the Fourth Amendment doesn't really exist anymore, and I agree. Especially, just think about this. If they can do what they did to Donald Trump, or Carter Page, if you will, what do you think they can do to you? When he's got a bigger voice and he can, stand up and fight. Let's say the same thing happens to you. Who's going to stand up and fight for you? Pretty much a lot of times when the government says you're guilty, you're pretty much guilty until you're innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, right. I'd like to think that, but, let's be honest. So what he's saying here is that what happens is that, let's say there's like the Second Amendment. Well, I don't like it. Well, the Second Amendment is, right to bear arms should not be infringed. Well, there's certain things you can restrict, if you will, if you're a felon, et cetera, like that. But in Virginia, what they're doing, it's pretty bad. Now, Virginia was always sort of a conservative state. Well, until D.C. got bigger, it became not conservative because a lot of the leftist douche canoes who lived out in California, the big population centers, took their voting rights and went to Northern Virginia. And so people out in Western Virginia, they're hosed. Now, they can vote for whoever their state senator or their local assemblyman or whatever. That's all fine and dandy. But if they're being railroaded, how are you gonna fight against it? You can't. So essentially, yeah, you can vote for somebody, and you may get your dyed in the wool red conservative assemblyman or state senator in there. What's that going to do? If he votes no on something, and they vote yes, well, too bad, you're hosed.
So the legislature, as several speakers have said before, have a number of gun bills that they have pre-filed and intend to vote on. These bills have been called reasonable by their advocates, and they have been called draconian or unconstitutional or any number of things by their opponents.
Exactly. So who do you believe? Well, I believe that if it violates the Second Amendment, which I've read some of these bills that they're producing, they're talking about magazines that contain more than 6 rounds. You can't have anymore. You got to turn them in. Well, how are they going to do that? How are you going to force people to turn in something that's legal right now, then all of a sudden by legislative fiat is illegal now or in the future? How are you going to do that? Well, I know for one thing, if indeed I do have firearms as per the Second Amendment, I would not own them in Virginia or even take them, if you will, there. Why? Not what this is going on. I'm not saying I do. I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying if I did. Wink, wink, and a nudge, nudge. So we got something that Tim Pool said, and a lot of people said it before him. It's not just him, but I just remember him saying it. Actually, I think Glenn Beck said it. But the point is that what's going on in this country right now? There's 2 people watching a movie, okay? And after you leave the movie, each person saw the movie differently. One sees it this way, the other person saw it this other way. Well, who's right? I don't know. But what I do know is that these laws they want to put on the books, they violate the Second Amendment. Now, I guarantee you that it's going to go up against the Supreme Court. It's going to go to the appellate court. It's going to go all these districts until finally it goes to the Supreme Court. And depending on which way their underwear was put on that day, they may or may not vote in favor of the Second Amendment. Who knows? So again, this is very, very dicey for Virginia, honestly. So let's continue.
I'm not going to address the bills themselves. What I would like to address is the fact that at this point, so many people believe that these are unconstitutional or draconian that you have, as of last night, 30 counties in this state which have voted themselves either through resolutions or through actual county ordinances to be Second Amendment sanctuary counties.
There you go. That is the important thing right now. That there's a few counties in Virginia that can bully and railroad the rest of Virginia's counties and the people there. And so we want this. Guess what? They can vote it, and they have the majority now. And you know what? They're gonna do it. Just like they're gonna vote to impeach Donald Trump. It's gonna go to the Senate, and it's not gonna go anywhere. But they're still gonna do it, even though the saying they're gonna cut their nose off to spite their face. That's what Democrats are doing. Same thing with Virginia. They're gonna pass all these laws to cut off their nose to spite their face. And these counties said, "Nah, we're Second Amendment. We're not gonna enforce these laws that you put in because they violate the Second Amendment." And they can, because there are some cities in Virginia that are sanctuary cities. They say, we're just not going to, so why is it that it's okay to be a sanctuary city but not a Second Amendment sanctuary city? Why is that? One screen, 2 people watching, 2 different outcomes.
The ugly truth of our situation is that is just scratching the surface of what is happening. I work plainclothes law enforcement. I walk around without a uniform. People don't see my badge. People don't see my gun. And I can tell you, people are angry. And I am frightened to the point that I am looking at moving my wife and child, my child-to-be, March.
Okay, before he humble brags his kid coming being born in March. Yes, there's a lot of law enforcement, such as this gentleman right here, that are scared. And I've said this in a couple of videos before. Would you want to be a law enforcement officer in Virginia right now, and you're told, hey, go into this city and arrest the mayor? Now, most likely, nothing's going to happen. They'll arrest the mayor, Maybe. Maybe not. There's, I think, another thing that Glenn Beck said, and I guess I'm on Glenn Beck kick today. The Bubba effect. Where, essentially, it's like this. It's like something bad happens and the city or the state can't handle it, or they put out some laws, and it doesn't, they don't like it. So the town, or the denizens of the town, decide to take over and say, nah, you cops stay out. We got a handle on this. And they're all armed. They say, nah, you just go away. We got this. Don't come in because we got this. If you come in, well, I'm not going to be responsible for what happened. Sort of something like that. I'm giving you an example of the Bubba effect. You can tell in this voice, this guy is very, very concerned, albeit scared.
My wife and child out of the state if these bills pass. The reason is because my fellow law enforcement officers, I've heard on more than one occasion, tell me that they would not enforce these bills regardless of whether they believe in them ideologically, because they believe that there are so many people angry in gun shops, gun shows, at bars. We have heard it now. People talking about tar and feathering politicians in a less than joking manner. People talking about fighting with violence over their concern with Senate Bill 16 and Senate Bill 64. That is a terrifying prospect, and I have never seen people willing to speak about something like that publicly.
And there you go. Now, do I believe what he just laid out? Absolutely. Why would he lie? What benefit does he have? He's a Marine Corps officer. He's got some credibility. He's a civilian law enforcement officer. Why would I think this guy's lying? I've heard this talk before in private circles that, look, even when I was in the military, I've asked, I think you're sitting in the break room, lunchroom, whatever, and you sit there talking about it. Would you, I think this is like during the Obama era or the Bush era. I can't remember what era. I've been in 3 different presidents when I was in the military, I think. Maybe 2. Definitely 3. Maybe, I don't know. Didn't matter. You have to understand that. What would you do? If you were given a bad order, like go into this village and, start cracking skulls, or, lay down some covering fire into the school or something like that. When there's children, would you do it? Would you not do it? Would you violate the order? What we're seeing this right here is that if these laws get into effect, would these cops, enforce those laws even though they violate the Constitution? Because if you remember correctly, in your civics class in high school, there is a hierarchy. Federal law supersedes state law for the most part, which is interesting in how sanctuary cities can exist violating federal law. It's just the way it goes, I guess. So the question is, if you're a cop and you have a job to do, would you do it? Would you go into someone's house and search for weapons, knowing full well that, let's just say, for an example, for a hypothetical situation, if you know this town is heavily armed, the public is, and you know that once you go in, there's going to be a mob mentality riot outside, or people with torches and pitchforks, would you do that? I have a hard time believing that even 90% would. Now, there's going to be some 10% out there that I don't care. State law, do what I want. And they're going to do it. But would you? I don't know. It's just one of those hypothetical situations that should be addressed and should be pondered. it's a really bad situation, especially for a cop that's just trying to do his job, and he's given an unenviable task.
That said, as a law enforcement officer, I empathize with concerns people have over gun violence, and it has touched my family very closely, as my wife Jennifer is a graduate of Columbine High School. I will not go into her personal relationships with the people that she lost, but years and years later now, she still looks at that event with terror and at the same time finds herself being extraordinarily pro-gun. My wife is a scientist. She is an astrophysicist. She's much smarter than I am, but not smart enough to know she shouldn't have married me. She constantly reminds me that we must, as a society, let reason rule emotions when we are making laws.
Let reason rule emotions when enacting laws. Ha! Now, the reason I'm laughing is that politicians don't act on reason when acting laws. It's all emotional, and this is exactly what it is. Once they got in, okay, think about this. Why are these legislators in Virginia, their first act, their first business is to violate the Second Amendment? Why? Ask yourself that question. Why? I don't know. Maybe if the 2 or 3 people out there to listen to this could post in the comments, why is their first action to violate the Second Amendment? Because that's what this is. It's a violation of the Second Amendment. Regardless of, you may have a different opinion. We could talk about it, but I'm just thinking that, why is it their first act? Why isn't it like, I don't know, cleaning the waterways, rebuilding roads and bridges? No. Second Amendment's where it's at. That's where we want to go for. We want to start taking away stuff. Why? I mean, I have some conspiratorial ideas why. That's neither here nor there. I think that some of these legislators ran on it, that they said, first act of business, we're going to start taking guns away. We're going to start common sense gun legislation, blah, blah, frickin' blah. What's common sense about taking someone's rights away? Okay, you take the Second Amendment away, Virginia. What's next? The first? The third? Well, we don't really use the third, really. What about the fourth? Fourth doesn't necessarily exist anymore. Not unless you have some sort of political power where you could fight against it. They can just make up a whole bunch of stuff against you. Start wiretapping you for, I don't know, having a YouTube channel that questions the government. Oh no. We can't have a guy like that out there right now, can we? No. You can't question the government. Why not? It's part of the First... Oh, wait, that's right. The First Amendment's not there anymore because we just allowed the Second Amendment to go away. So once the Second Amendment goes away, there goes the First. The third goes, the fourth, and the fifth. You might as well, the whole 10, might as well get rid of the Bill of Rights because we don't need them anymore because you just trust your government masters, right? I don't know. That's one of the things as a historian, when you read on the Revolution of the United States, there's a litany of reasons why they wanted to break away from England. One of them was gun rights, obviously. Concord, Lexington ring a bell. But there was other things, like quartering soldiers in your house during peacetime or even wartime. Just the government just putting in people in your house. Why? Because they could? Bull crap. And without paying you? Why? What if I don't want somebody from the Marines in my house? Oh, too bad. There's no more Third Amendment anymore. We need to put these people in your house to keep you safe. Why? I don't know. You just do it because as a good citizen, just do what the government says. Oh, okay. Yeah. Wait, what? And if you got no Fourth and Fifth Amendment, what do you have? You have a dictatorship. This is the start of a dictatorship in Virginia. I know you're going to say, that's very hyperbolic. Really? Think about that for a second. Yeah, it may be hyperbolic. However, where am I wrong? I'm not. At least in my opinion. So let me continue on. He kind of wraps it up, and you hear the panel just kind of go, whatever, the red light came on, you hurry up, wrap it up, blah, blah, blah. They don't really care. They're just letting people comment, and they're just sitting there like filing their nails, go on Twitter going, oh my God, the Second Amendment guy's here, whatever.
And when we are enforcing law, emotion should come into play when we are granting mercy.
Imagine that. Using emotion when granting mercy. Huh. I mean, holy crap. What a jerk this guy is, right? Right? Am I saying?
But not when we are trying to decide who we are going to crucify.
And there, in fact, is the husk of the question, or the issue here. Once these laws goes into effect, and they will go into effect, people who were not violating the law will be violating the law. Why do that? Why make people who aren't criminals put a law and then they're criminals now? Why would you do that? Why would you put Virginia in the unenviable situation where you make a bunch of people criminals? You know what? Let's just say, I don't know how many people are in Virginia. I think there's, oh my God, 10 million? Let's say there's 10 million people in Virginia. We can just use that as an example. I don't know the exact number. Let's say there's 10 million. Out of those 10 million, let's say 4 million have firearms. Out of those 4 million, let's say 90% turn all their weapons in and their attachments to their scary black rifles. So that means 10% of 4 million is, I think, 400,000. So there's 400,000 people out there roaming the countryside and the cities still with firearms. So you want to, that's 400,000 people is an army, okay? I think it's 400,000. Yeah. Believe it, my math is bad. I'm a historian, not a frickin' math major. So you want to piss off 400,000 people. Why would you do that? You know what? That creates, yeah, well, we can, you can't fight the federal government. Really? Well, tell Afghanistan that. Tell Vietnam that. They fought against us. Vietnam pretty much won. We pulled out. Afghanistan's still kicking around with Taliban and ISIS and whoever running around, the Taliban. They're still out there. They've been fighting us for 20 years. So why are you going to make 400,000 people? Just in Virginia, by the way. I'll get to another number here in a second. You're going to make 400,000 people the enemy? And then let's say after a while, the police or the state government starts, rounding up people and all that. There's going to be some people out there who did give in their guns. Go, you know what? I shouldn't have done it. I don't like it. Then you get to piss off those people. See, this isn't a good situation. Even countrywide, there's 330 million people, give or take a few million undocumented immigrants, if you will. Okay? There's also 400 million guns in this country. Let's say you get rid of 90 of them. You still have 4 million guns out there. There, you can well equip an army. Well, I know what you're going to say. Well, you can't fight the military. Again, Vietnam, Afghanistan. You can. It's not something I want to do. It's not something I'm not necessarily prepared for. I don't want to do it because it's not. I kind of like my creature comforts. I like, running water, internet, electricity, a warm bed, clean sheets. I like to go to the Four Seasons once in a while and hang out there. A nice hotel. But if something like this happens, they start rounding people up. What are you going to... You're pushing people who have no problem with the government to having a problem with the government. Why would you do that? This makes no sense. Unless, conspiracy theory talking, you want to do that. Again, why would you do that? Unless you're a sociopath, you like violence. Oh my God.
Ben, your red light has been on for some time. If you could just please sum up.
Yeah, wrap up. We don't want to hear you.
The Attorney General was asked recently whether or not Second Amendment sanctuary statutes or resolutions were legal. And his response in his statement that he just released was that the legal precedent we would set by allowing communities to selectively ignore those laws at will is alarming and indicative of the same mindset that nearly 150 years ago led this country to dissolve into a civil war. I have corrected his statement.
Okay. Listen to what he's about to say here. This is very poignant. And it should... Well, it's not going to, but it should give these legislators who are wanting to do this maybe some time to think it over for a minute. They're not going to. But what he's about to say here is very important.
To reflect where we truly are sitting today. What his statement should have said is that the legal precedent we would set by allowing the legislature to selectively ignore enumerated rights at will is the same mindset that 150 years ago led this country into a civil war.
Exactly. Talking about the Civil War, just real quick, a lot of people will say, that's about states' rights. No, it really wasn't. That was like number 5 on the list. The big boogeyman, if you will, was slavery. Make no bones about it. Even though it was legal, it shouldn't have been, but it was. And that's why the United States went to war, because the South broke away. Lincoln didn't care, yada, yada, yada. Hundreds of thousands of people died, and here we are. When you allow legislatures to ignore enumerated rights, which is constitutional rights, what are you starting? He's not necessarily saying you're going to start a civil war, but it sort of smells like you're starting a civil war. Okay, look. That's all he said. I'm not going to continue on here. Nobody. Now, there are some people out there who are hyperbolic and say, no, you don't. You don't want a civil war. Just look to Africa for an example, or Central South America when they've had civil wars. You don't want one, especially in the United States. Why? I've already sort of described why. There's a lot of people with a lot of guns, a lot of ammunition. And there are some people, unfortunately, that want this to happen. I do not, for the life of me, want this to happen, like I've already described. And you can tell this in this guy's voice, he started sort of breaking up a little bit there. He's concerned. Now, I wouldn't say decorator, I don't know how many words he has, but when a Marine major in the Marine Reserve and a police officer in the civilian sector, you hear his voice breaking up, he's concerned. Why is he concerned? Well, he just heard what he had to say. He's noticing a pattern in Virginia in itself of rights being ignored, dismissed, overwritten, etc. And he knows he's probably pretty smart because he's an officer. They have to have 4-year college degree. You have to know, he's got to have some historical background. You know, he did go to college, if you will. Just in the news, there's still civil wars going on today. There's been a civil war going on in Colombia for the last 45 years, I think. The FARC and ELN, they're sort of been dismissed, but they're come back. The point is that he's worried. That's why he wants to move out of Virginia, because he doesn't want to be involved in this. I myself, as a property owner, taxpayer in Virginia, don't want to own property there if I know that these legislators are violating my rights or my potential rights in that state, if you will. Let's say I want to move back there. I'm giving it up. I think I've told my wife this because of what's going on here. I don't want to move back there. I'll sell the damn house. I'd rather move to somewhere like Florida, where there's still some monicum of sensibility there with gun rights. Luckily, there in Florida, there's still two senators that are. Two senators that are Republican, and you got a governor that's a Republican. So I know, who knows, they might even flip and go, oh, you take away your gun rights. So there is no safe sanctuary place for gun rights in the United States. Because the political winds shift. They shift very hard. Think about this. They're even calling, for instance, how the political winds shift. Obama, when he was president, was a damn near socialist. Now he looks conservative with the knuckleheads that are running for the Democratic ticket. And that's the thing. The political wind shifted in Virginia, and they shifted, I think for the first time, the whole state, for the majority, is blue, which is not good for people who've got Second Amendment sensibilities, if you will. So I guess in conclusion here, you hear a lot of talk about Civil War and all their stuff, and a lot of people, hear tough talk at the bar. What, you fight the gun? Really? You want to? Yeah, you can, but you shouldn't. That's the thing. There's a lot of things in this world where you can do, but you shouldn't. Like, for instance, you could rob a bank. You really shouldn't, because you're going to get caught. Why? There's a lot of protection, a lot of cameras, and it's illegal, obviously. You're stealing. That brings up to my other point I've been talking about. So the government in Virginia wants to write into laws to steal your property. And that's what firearms are. They're your property. And they want to take them away. Why? Don't really know. Like I said, I could give you a couple of conspiratorial ideas, but why? That'll sort of deflate my point I'm trying to make here. Is that when these states try to curtail Second Amendment or even your first, Fourth, Fifth Amendment rights, and if they can take your rights away, if they can take your Second Amendment, they can take your First away. I think we'll leave it there. So, again, thank you for listening to me, not necessarily rant, but sort of bring to light what's going on in Virginia. Not only Virginia, but California, Illinois, New York, if you will. Those three big states where they've pretty much destroyed your Second Amendment rights. So, again, I think that's all I need to say. Lazlo